Doki Doki.
I don't see how this isn't supposed to be appealing. You know, if a girl can't stab herself, how's she supposed to practice for stabbing other people? Well, I guess this one doesn't like it. Hang in there, baby. Doki Doki Literature Club came out 2 years ago now, in 2017, and its rise to fandom and praise YouTube-wide was meteoric. I suppose it's still never too late for a spoiler warning, so here's one now. This is definitely one of the biggest examples of the whole meta-horror trend that plays it off as if the game is alive and trying to reach out to you. And with this one, it's also a critique on other genres, dating simulators, visual novels, anime in general. I definitely thought that this was a gimmick when it first came out, but it has staying power, definitely, and this style itself is something that I've gotten really into. More often than not now, as with Baldi's Basics, if something has meteoric success, it's likely to have huge influence on a bunch of other games that come out later, but I digress. At first glance, DDLC is a visual novel, dating sim, where you go on a thirsty pastel-filled mission to get with one of the 4 very cliché types of girls. The tsundere, the shy one, the goofball, that one. An important thing before we even start the game is that the Steam page is written from the perspective of Monika, who is one of the girls. This is not anything new on Steam, really, so this is something that no one really takes seriously when they first look at the game, because why would you? It's just a mysterious VN that probably only has horror warnings because of some sort of sad backstory of a girl that you choose as per usual in a VN, right? But let's have a read. Hi, Monika here. Welcome to the Literature Club. It's always been a dream of mine to make something special out of things I love. Now that you're a club member, you can help make that dream come true in this cute game. Every day is full of chit-chat and fun activities with all of my adorable and unique club members. Sayori, the youthful bundle of sunshine who values happiness the most. Natsuki, the deceivingly cute girl who packs an assertive punch. Yuri, the timid and mysterious one who finds comfort in the world of books. And of course, Monika, the leader of the club. That's me. I'm super excited for you to make friends with everyone and help the Literature Club become a more intimate place for all of my members. But I can already tell that you're a sweetheart. Will you promise to spend most time with me? Love heart emoji. When we open the game, there's a bunch of content warnings, but it doesn't really describe exactly what's going on. It's obviously more of a general thing. We also get character files in the form of .char, which isn't actually a type of file. So we're immediately kind of questioning before we even open the game. But when you actually start, after putting in your name, if I name my character idiot, then the game's gonna be an idiot. Oh no, wait, that's gonna call me an idiot. The game opens with you walking to school. We'll call this day 1. You're walking to school and see an annoying girl running towards us. This is Sayori, our childhood friend. She's actually on time for once too, and she's often very late and running after you. You get your general expository dialogue as well. Despite calling her annoying, you obviously care about her. But we also have that awkward way of talking where she has to be the life of the conversation. She's like, hey, join this book club, and you're like, bold of you to assume I can read. And she's like, other reasons, and you're like, oh, okay, sure. When we go to the club after school, upon seeing them book thoughts that make up the entirety of the club, you get really nervous. You also find out that the first type of task you're getting is poetry, and Sayori walks home with you. You get the first night, which are just words on the page with points at the top, and 3 of the girls, with no Monika there, and words you can choose to get started on your poem. One of the girls will be interested in each of these words, and it's up to you to determine which one you were interested in and which words would fit that girl. Peppy words for Sayori, cute words for Natsuki, and 200 IQ galaxy brain words for Yuri. So pick who you want, and by pick who you want I mean pick Yuri because she's best girl and you're trash if you disagree. In day 2, Yuri has a book for us to see. It's called The Portrait of Markov and has an eye on the cover that's like every single ominous eye I've ever fucking seen in every single horror media. And she describes this. Basically, it's about this girl in high school who moves in with her long-lost sister, but as soon as she does so, her life gets really strange. She gets targeted by these people who escaped from a human experiment prison, and while her life is in danger, she needs to desperately choose who to trust. No matter what she does, she ends up destroying the most of her relationships and her life starts to fall apart. Depending on who your poem is for, you can spend some free time with them and do a number of activities. For Sayori, you're talking about the upcoming festival with Monika. For Natsuki, you get manga from the storeroom and realize that she's into cutesy series. With Yuri, she says you can read her book with her on the desk and she gets close to you. Then Monika cockblocks you and says that go exchange poems with people in whatever order you want, and they respond with critiques based on the poems that you wrote for them. It couldn't have been me. See, The direction the sparkle protrudes, a noisy neighbor, an angry boyfriend, I'll never know. I wasn't home. I peer inside for a clue. No, I can't see. I reel, blind, like a film lit out in the sun. But it's too late. My retinas, already scorched with a permanent copy of the meaningless image. It's just a little hole. It wasn't too bright. It was too deep, stretching forever into everything. A hole of infinite choices. I realized now that I wasn't looking in, I was looking out, and he on the other side was looking in. Eagles can fly, monkeys can climb, crickets can leap, horses can race, owls can seek, cheetahs can run, people can try, that's about it. The ghost under the lights, the tendrils of my hair illuminate between the amber glow. Bathing. It must be this one. The last remaining streetlight to have withstood the test of time. The last yet to be replaced by the sickening blue-green hue of the future. I bathe, calm, breathing air of a present but living in the past. The light flickers. I flicker back. Dear sunshine, the way you glow through my hands in the morning, it makes me feel like you missed me, kissing my forehead to help me out of bed, making me rub the sleepy from my eyes. Are you asking me to come out and play? I look above. The sky is blue. It's a secret, but I trust you too. If it wasn't for you, I could sleep forever. But I'm not mad. I want breakfast. This is then followed by an argument about book styles and writing styles. You can side with them or just get Sayori to break them up because you just don't give a shit, aka my response. On the way home, Sayori tells us that everyone apparently likes us and we're way too fucking stupid to realize that, as with every visual novel ever. On the third day, Monika isn't there and Sayori asks you to get something to eat with her, but fucking Natsuki over here lobs a cookie at her fucking face and all three girls have a stupid conversation about them. When they finally bring up Monika and her absence, Yuri says she might have I guess she might already be in a relationship, which is implied here, which makes sense because you can't really choose her for a lot of the more romantic things. Like, she's not on the poem writing screen, and a lot of the time it'll just be other people that you're doing activities with, but she's only really in one of those activities because Sayori is talking to her. Then Sayori says Monika is the most desirable out of all of us, and Yuri agrees, but Natsuki just kind of does Natsuki things. Monika comes in directly afterwards and says that she was practicing piano, which is obviously just her explaining her absence, but in this context we could say that she was also cancelling out the rumors of having a romantic interest, because she overheard us. The stuff that you do with each character today are all a lot more physical, with each girl falling, tripping, or, leaning towards you unintentionally, and they get really awkward about it, so you have to make them feel better while maintaining the closeness. For Sayori, you help her get supplies, they fall because she's a fucking idiot, then you gotta help her. For Natsuki, she goes to get manga again, and she falls on you because she's a fucking idiot and you gotta help her. Oh sorry, that's the wrong game. For Yuri, you gotta go make tea and read together, and she gets the chocolate pushed into her mouth because she's a fucking weirdo, and you gotta— oh wow, I'm uncomfortable. Then Monika cockblocks you once again by saying it's poetry time. The colors, they won't stop. Bright, beautiful colors, flashing, expanding, piercing, red, green, blue, and endless cacophony of meaningless noise. The noise, it won't stop, violent, grating, waveform, squeaking, screeching, piercing, sine, cosine, tangent, like playing a chalkboard on a turntable, like playing a vinyl on a pizza crust. An endless poem of meaningless. Load me. Amy likes spiders. You know what I heard about Amy? Amy likes spiders. Icky, wriggly, hairy, ugly spiders. That's why I'm not friends with her. Amy has a cute singing voice. I heard her singing my favorite love song. Every time she would sing the chorus, my heart would pound to the rhythm of the words. But she likes spiders. That's why I'm not friends with her. One time, I hurt my leg really bad. Amy helped me up and took me to the nurse. I tried not to let her touch me. She likes spiders, so her hands are probably gross. That's why I'm not friends with her. Amy has a lot of friends. I always see her talking to people. She probably talks about spiders. What if her friends start to like spiders too? That's why I'm not friends with her. It doesn't matter if she has other hobbies. It doesn't matter if she doesn't hurt anyone. It's gross, she's gross. The world is better off without spider lovers. And I'm going to tell everyone. The raccoon. It happened in the dead of night while I was slicing bread for a guilty snack. My attention was caught by the scuttling of a raccoon outside my window. That was, I believe, the first time I noticed my strange tendencies as an unordinary human. I gave the raccoon a piece of bread, my stubbornness well aware of the consequences, well aware that the raccoon that is fed will always come back for more. The enticing beauty of my cutting knife was the symptom, the bread, the hungry curiosity, the raccoon, the urge. The moon increments a phase and reflects that much more light off of my cutting knife, the very same light that glistens in the eyes of my raccoon friend. I slice the bread. Fresh and soft, the raccoon becomes excited. Or perhaps I am merely projecting my emotions onto the newly satisfied animal. The raccoon has taken to following me. You could say that we've gotten quite used to each other. The raccoon becomes hungry more and more frequently, so my bread is always handy. Every time I brandish my cutting knife, the raccoon shows me its excitements, a rush of blood, classic Pavlovian conditioning. I slice the bread, and I feed myself again. I pop off my scalp like a lid of a cookie jar. It's the secret place where I keep all my dreams. Little balls of sunshine all rubbing together like a bundle of kittens. I reach inside my thumb and forefinger to pluck one out. My collection makes a lot of friends. Each bottle has starlight to make amends. Sometimes my friend feels a certain way. Down comes a bottle to save the day. Night after night, more dreams. Friend after friend, more bottles. Deeper and deeper my fingers go. It's like exploring a dark cave, discovering the secrets hiding in nooks and crannies. Digging and digging, scraping and scraping. I blow off dust from my bottle caps. It doesn't feel like time elapsed. My empty self could use some more. My friends look through my locked front door. Finally, all done, I open up, and in come my friends. In they come in such a hurry. Do they want my bottles that much? I frantically pull them from the shelf, one after another, holding them out for each and every friend, each and every bottle. But every time I let go, it shatters against the tile beneath my feet. Happy thoughts, happy thoughts, happy thoughts, in the shards all over the floor. They were supposed to be my friends who aren't smiling. They were all shouting, pleading, something. But all I hear is echo, 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 echo inside my head. This is the first time we see the creepy poems, and in particular Monika's poems get way more self-aware. Monika's own writing tip to you is an extremely out-of-place reminder to save your game. Her poem is also called See Me, and has lines like noise all around, or load me. She also announces that we're reading poetry for the festival, and everyone disliked that, so they all go to practice on their own. On our way home, Sayori, for some reason, asks that if we have the choice to walk home with Yuri instead, would we still walk with Sayori or with Yuri? Either happy or not, and goes home in silence regardless, and you finally realize that she might like you, despite pretty much having these clues the entire time. Again, galaxy brain. Maybe idiot was the right name after all. This is also one of the fake choices in the game, or cosmetic choices as I like to call them, where the game will have these normal VN questions like choose this girl or choose this girl, the illusion of normalcy or like the facade, with no relevancy for the inner workings of the game. In terms of, you know, the stuff that it keeps track of in the background to see if you're checking the game files and whether or not you saved and had to spend time with each girl, stuff like that. You gotta keep up appearances. On day 4, it's time to prepare for the festival, and is it just me or does Monika seem a little weirder now? When Natsuki says that she hopes there'll be squid, Monika says that's oddly specific, and Natsuki says, you of all people should like squid, and Monika wonders why, prompting the monika joke. Monika says that doesn't make any sense in the translation, and needless to say, Natsuki is confused as fuck. Monika senses that she's gone too far and sort of shrugs it off. Her poem today is called The Lady Who Knows Everything and is even more ominous than the last one. You ask what it's about and she says writing does not always have to have a direct meaning. Okay, Tristram Shandy. The Lady Who Knows Everything. An old tale tells of a lady who wanders earth. The lady who knows everything. A beautiful lady who has found every answer, all meaning, all purpose, and all that was ever sought. And here I am, a feather, lost adrift to the sky, victims of the currents of the wind. Day after day I search with little hope, knowing legends don't exist. But when all else has failed me, when all others have turned away, the legend is all that remains. The last dim star glittering in the twilight sky, until one day the wind leaves to blow. I fall, and I fall, and I fall, and fall even more, gentle as a feather, a dry quill expressionless, but a hand catches me between the thumb and forefinger, the hand of a beautiful lady. I look in her eyes and find no end to her gaze. The lady who knows everything knows what I am thinking. Before I can speak, she responds with a hollow voice. I have found every answer, all of which amount to nothing. there is no meaning, there is no purpose, and we seek only the impossible. I am not your legend does not exist. And with a breath she blows me back afloat, and I pick up in a gust of wind. Because you. Tomorrow will be brighter with me around. When today is dim, I can only look down. My looking is a little more forward, because you look at me. When I want to say something, I say it with a shout, but my truest feelings can never come out. My words are a little less empty, because you listen to me. When something is above me, I reach for the stars, but when I feel small, I don't get very far. My standing is a little bit taller, because you sit with me. I believe in myself with all of my heart, but what do I do when it's all torn apart? My faith is a little bit stronger, because you trusted me. My pen always puts my feelings to the test. I'm not a good writer, but my best is my best. My poems are a little bit dearer, because you think of me. Because you. A marvel millions of years in the making, where the womb of earth chastically leads to the surface, under the clear blue sky an expanse of bliss, beneath the grey rolling clouds in an endless enigma. The easiest world to get lost in is one where everything can be found. One can only build a sandcastle where the sand is wet, and where the sand is wet the tide comes. Will it gently lick at your foundations until you give in? Or will a sudden wave send you crashing down at the blink of an eye? Either way, the outcome is the same, and yet we still build sand castles. I stand where the foam wraps around my ankles, where my toes squish into the sand. The salty air is therapeutic, the breeze is gentle yet powerful. I sink my toes into the ultimate boundary line, tempted by the foamy tendrils. Turn back, and I abandon my peace to erode at the shore. Drift forward, and I return to the earth forever. During the weekend, you can either go to help Yuri or Natsuki do their part to prepare for the festival. You get their number, depending on who you choose, and contact them over the weekend. But beforehand, Sayuri gets really upset and runs out of the room. They lightly argue over you. It's kind of pushy, but nothing that's really dark. Then it cuts to Sunday, and you're supposed to meet up with whoever you chose, but you're worried about Sayuri after she runs off. You find her in her room, and we get this big conversation about depression, which is actually really accurate and heartfelt. The reason that she's always late is because she finds it really hard to even get up in the morning. One of her poems is talking about the sun, if you remember, and that's something that comes back as well because she really is thanking the sun for even getting her up. We're just listening to her patiently while she explains this, but as soon as she says her piece, she immediately apologizes and says that she dumped all of this on us and she's a burden. We then ask her to come hang out, but she says no, so we hug her and go home. If you chose Natsuki, she'll come up to you while you're heading back to your house, but for some reason Yuri is already waiting there if you chose her. Like, she just sort of hung around super early instead. You paint banners with Yuri, and she has a conversation with you about how she likes knives because she thinks that they're beautiful. It gets kind of creepy as well, especially because you and her get frisky with the paint, and then you cut your finger and she licks it before looking embarrassed. If you chose Natsuki, you make cupcakes, and she obviously has a knife for baking. You and her would get frisky with the ingredients, and you push her against a wall. You and whoever you chose eventually stand outside the front of your house again, and you're going to get romantic in the conversation, but Sayuri cockblocks you this time, and makes it awkward as fuck. Whoever you chose leaves. Sayuri just kind of dumps a bunch of her feelings onto you. She says that she's in love with you, and was thinking about you and whoever you chose, and it was killing her. You get another cosmetic choice of whether or not you want to be with her, and she leaves with you viewing things in a different light regardless. Here comes your first out-of-game experience where you find a new file called Happy Thoughts that looks like an Xbox gamer tag. It's in this sort of creepypasta-esque style, and it has Sayuri's face on it. Also, another thing that I totally forgot to mention. Another thing, and this is funny because this is something that I actually did by accident when I was first playing this game when it first came out. I started tampering with the game files and I deleted Monika's character way before I should have. So I was actually deleting it, I think, in day 2, and when you do that, the game restarts, and Sayuri is now the sentient one, but she can't handle it in this instance because it was deleted way too early. She doesn't have context for you or anything that Monika has done, so she hangs herself. So it's implied here that when one girl has sentience, if you delete her, her sentience will be transferred onto, I guess, the person who is the most likely to have sentience afterwards. I'm not quite sure how that follows, but somehow Monika was able to keep going and Sayuri just can't handle it. So instead of going through what Monika did and eventually getting to the ending that we'll go into, she just ends it. If you keep going on the straightforward route that we're going now, on day 5, Sayuri is nowhere to be seen. And we just go to school anyway, but we're still really worried about her. At school you find Monika here. She says that we're really early and it's weird that we didn't check on Sayori after the conversation we had yesterday, which Monika somehow knows about. Once you read Sayori's poem, which is lovely, you're guilted into rushing to check on her and letting yourself in. Y'all know what happens next. Swinging around at the speed of sound. Got places to go. Gotta kill myself. So the word end appears before it goes back to the title screen, and we see a glitched version of all of the girls where Sayori once stood. However, if you notice behind Sayori when she was hanging, it says a traceback. And when we visit that, it's a message from Monika that says, I hope I didn't break anything, I should just delete her instead. When we open the game, there's a bunch of content warnings, but it doesn't really describe exactly what's going on. It's obviously more of a general thing. The game also seems to have a mysterious bug where a question mark shows and something about an annoying girl, which I guess is what the question mark should have been, but I don't know. It writes itself and it gets rid of the bug afterwards and just goes on about how you walk to school alone, which is how the game starts. And you figured you'd check out the literature club. At the club, there's a 30% chance that the club's leader Monika will suddenly appear in a glitched out way, and there's a 14% chance that a picture will appear in the background of some hanging girl, whoever she is. Weird how that appears in a simple dating sim about you and 3 girls, but you know. Okay, for real though, one thing that I actually want to talk about was Monika will be close to the girl that will die in each act. What I mean by that is, with Sayori, Monika was super close to her out of all of the girls. She was there when you picked her to hang out and stuff like that, and she'll be close in terms of the physical as well, like she'll always be standing next to Sayori, and then it ends with Sayori dying. But the next one that we'll be talking about in this section of the game is Yuri, so what you'll notice is Monika will be close to Yuri, be talking about Yuri a lot, be referencing things that she knows about Yuri, implying that Yuri basically tells her everything. And when that happens to Natsuki, it will happen again. So day 1 again repeats as normal, but at the end of the day you get a special poem that says stare at the dot to reveal a special message, and if you just keep it on the screen for a while it reveals I love you. In the poem game, now that Sayori is out of the picture, her words will just transfer to one of the other girls. However, there's also a slight chance that Yuri's face will get really creepy, all flowy like, if you will. There's also a new file called Can You Hear Me, where we can now see that Monika says the other girls were all crazy all along and all she did was show that to us. But he wasn't looking at me. Confused, I frantically glance at my surroundings. My burned eyes can no longer see colour. Are there others in the room? Are they talking? Or are they simply poems on flat sheets of paper? The sound of frantic scrawling playing tricks on my ears. The room begins to crinkle, closing in on me. The air I breathe dissipates before it reaches my lungs. Panic. There must be a way out. It's right there. He's right there. Swallowing my fears, I brandish my pen. I can feel the tenderness of her skin through the night, as if it were an extension of my sense of touch. My body nearly convulses. There's sobbing incredibly faint deep down that screams to resist the uncontrollable pleasure, but I can already tell that I'm pushing over the edge. I can't stop myself. The third eye is drawing me closer. On day 2, we'll get to the poem reading and Monika jumps in front of the text box on occasion. If we go to hang out with Natsuki, instead of her normal dialogue when she goes to the manga storeroom, she gets what I'm gonna call the super bold text saying fucking Monika MMMMM. And in the scene where you go to sit down, when she's falling asleep leaning on your shoulder, instead of going through with the rest of the scene, she glitches out with black squares obscuring her facial features. Then Monika disrupts her by stuffing a protein bar in her mouth. Yuri, on the other hand, reads books with us once again. But the description that she gives to the portrait of Markov is way edgier than before, and the way that she says she's into it, she kind of implies that it's a sexual thing for her. And she says that she forgets everything around her when she reads because her body gets incredibly something. Basically, it's about this religious camp that has turned into a human experiment prison, and the people trapped there have this trait that turns them into killing machines with a lust for blood. But the facility gets worse, and they start selectively breeding people by cutting off their limbs and affixing them to— oh, that might be a bit of a spoiler. I'm really into it. When they have their argument again, it's much darker, and Natsuki references Yuri cutting herself. When you get to picking a side now, there's no Sayori to break them up. and it zooms in on Natsuki's name before Monika's face jumps in. She says Natsuki is going to forget about this, so Natsuki is basically every Telltale Games character ever if you do the bad option. Yuri says thanks for understanding before getting cut off by Monika and glitching out. There's also an extremely glitchy poem with some creepy Yuri avatars. The text file you get here is I, and this is Monika expressing her frustrations with you continuing to like the girls despite all of the horrible things that they do. On day 3, Natsuki has indeed completely forgotten about it, to the point where when Yuri apologizes, Natsuki gets really fucking confused. Yuri needs to go get tea again, and she says she's gonna go by herself to get the water. When she's gone for way longer than she should, you go to investigate, and you find her unfortunately self-harming. However, static fills the screen and it rewinds, with you in the classroom and Yuri returning. But when you put chocolate in her mouth, she pulls you into the storage room and is creepy. However, Monika cockblocks you yet again and says it's time for poems, and yet again the poems are way creepier than before. If your poem is for Yuri and you show it to Monika, she informs you of Yuri's self-harm tendencies. Gleefully, I might add. And if Natsuki likes your poem, you'll get a base 64 encoded message that erotically describes bloodlust. I assume this is something from Yuri's perspective. Natsuki calls Yuri a freak in bold text, and her face glitches as it did before, and she angrily asks why we didn't choose her instead. And the club is the only place that she feels safe. She snaps her neck and lunges towards the screen before a reversed end appears. However, when the argument happens this time, it snaps to Yuri saying nobody would care if she killed herself. Then her eye has its little moment. After we talk to Monika, we get the poem once again, and there's a slight chance that Monika's hidden avatar will jump if you press a certain word. On day 4, one of them apologizes once again for the argument, and if you've already seen the Yuri cutting scene, Yuri feels a strange sense of deja vu when she repeats the events. She apologizes for not being able to healthily process intense emotion, but she brushes this off because she's so happy to spend some alone time with you. Finally. Yeah, fun. She also mentions the fact that you're only in the club because you want to have a girlfriend after all, so she doesn't really feel like it's a weird thing for her to say. However, the cockblock hero is back at it again, and fades in as everything cuts to black. Once again, time to share poems. If you pick Monika first, she says, "Don't say I didn't warn you," okay? For Natsuki, she says that she made a special poem just for you. However, when you read it, it shows a message that is a cry out for help that Monika should not see instead of a poem. I don't know how else to bring this up, but there's been something I've been worrying about. Yuri's been acting kind of strange lately. You've only been here for a few days, so you may not know what I mean, but she's not normally like this. She's always been quiet and polite and attentive, things like that. Okay, this is really embarrassing, but I'm forcing myself to suck it up. Truth is, I'm really worried about her, but if I try talking to her, she'll get mad at me again. I don't know what to do. I think you're the only person that she'd listen to. I don't know why, but please just try to do something. Maybe you can convince her to talk to a therapist? But I've always wanted to try being better friends with Yuri, and it really hurts me to see this happening. I know I'm going to hate myself later for admitting that, but right now I don't care. I just feel so helpless. So please see if you can do something to help. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I'll make you cupcakes if I have to, just please try to do something. As for Monika, I don't know why, but she's been really dismissive about this. It's like she wants us to ignore it, so I'm mad at her right now. And that's why I'm coming to you about this. Don't let her know I wrote this. Just pretend I gave you a really good poem, okay? I'm counting on you. Thanks for reading. It's too late though, as Natsuki's face vanishes and the super bold text comes back, saying if you just spent more time with Monika, this would not have been an issue. Then the game restarts. All of the text is replaced with just Monika in some instances, and when we finally get back to where we left off in the poem reading, Yuri hands you a blood-stained letter with corrupted music. But it's basically just more graphic violence with mentions of how she cuts herself on her poems. When the festival thing from before is brought up, your mouse is pointed towards Monika. The other girls are ridiculously upset and Natsuki leaves the room. When Monika goes after her, you're left alone with Yandere Yuri over here. There's also a new text file and all of the older text files have disappeared. The new one is "Have a nice weekend" and has some cryptic shit written in it. Yuri confesses to being obsessed with you, and no matter what you pick, she stabs herself, and we're left on the classroom floor as she decomposes. This lasts for 2 cycles of day and night, so basically the weekend, and then it cuts to a Monday, so Natsuki runs in, seeing Yuri's body, and vomits as she runs out. Monika comes in and talks to you, and decides that she's just going to delete the other characters, and then shows you her doing so. The game then restarts once again. This time it's not a general restart, it's not just something that takes you to the menu. This time it's just Monika in the void of space. The classroom now has this sort of sunset orange tone to it, and it's empty. She confesses that she's self-aware and wants to be with us forever, and says our computer name, which totally diffuses the tension if you named your computer something stupid because you play too many metagames. There's also a jump scare if she notices recording software. If we close and reopen it at this point, without deleting Monika, it just says that she suddenly had a weird dream. Delete her file when we close the game, she becomes corrupted before saying it hurts and vanishing. The game then shuts down. This final restarting of the game reveals that Sayori is back. However, something is wrong with her. She has all of the knowledge that Monika did, so instead of hanging herself, she can process it and exist. She thanks you for getting rid of Monika and says that she knows everything that happened since Monika has now been replaced with her as club leader. As hoes will eternally be mad, she takes you into space and tries to do the same thing that Monika did to you. This time, however, a glitch interferes, and Monika says that she realizes she was wrong. She says goodbye and finally deletes everything. Every day, I imagine a future where I am Rem Lazar. Before we continue to the even weirder part of this game, funnily enough, I'm going to quickly lay out some things about each character that I noticed. Sayori is obviously one of those people who disguises her depression with the facade of being happy out of fear of being a burden on other people. She's the epitome of isolation. With Yuri, I feel like among her other issues, there's a focus on control. Self-harm can sometimes be a release, but also getting control over your life, because the things that make you upset you can't control, you feel helpless. But if you control the way that you get these feelings out, it gives you this sense of being able to process what you're doing. And she's just trying to process these things. Also, and this is my own conspiracy here, but why did the game rewind once we saw Yuri cutting herself? Surely, if Monika wanted her to look as bad as possible, it would have continued from that awkward moment anyway and just kept going, right? Because this would have brought the issue more to the forefront, wouldn't it? Well, why did it rewind then? Maybe if we think about Yuri's feelings towards control, Yuri was really the one who controlled that, who made it rewind. Maybe even though Monika is the one who has control over the game, Yuri is more self-aware than we think, and she does have a little bit of control over what we think of her. Finally, we have Natsuki, and there's some mention of her dad beating her up because of her interests and the lack of food. Maybe she's so angry because of her abuse and neglect, as well as her malnutrition, which would, I think, make anyone irritated. But as I said, there are weirder things involved. When you check the .char files, you can find secrets when you convert them to something else. Yuri's is now a text file, and it produces a base 64 Easter egg to Dan Salvato's No Sleep story that's just kind of a cool Easter egg. For Natsuki, it's an image of a blonde woman, requiring you to wrap it around a cone and invert the colors. For Monika's, it's a glowing ring with a block that needs to be converted to binary, forming a message that we will come back to. For Sayori, it's an OGG audio file that forms a QR code and a spectrogram leading to the projectlibertina.com website. Okay then. What's weird about this, in the first place, is that a VN does not need character files. If you open up something like RenP, you can see it's obviously just a bunch of text and images and music, it's nothing else. So as people on Reddit started digging, especially users called Midhost and Warchamp7, perhaps these characters really escaped from another, more terrifying game and sought refuge in this one. The stuff in the darker poems goes along with this already, but some of the secret poems have more in-your-face hints about this. One of these poems talks about a bunch of redacted shit, with only the letters "nothing is real" showing, but if you lighten the letters you get access to the redacted things, and it shows you a message about illness, with a bunch of symptoms that's confusing whoever's writing. It's also addressing the lies of someone called Rinia. Some of these symptoms include irregular heartbeat, arrhythmia, palpitations, shortness of breath, chest pain, and dizziness. Someone named Alyssa is the second case that the writer has seen of this disease. Something more is going on with this family, and the writer is now a part of this family. The liar, Renia, appears and they have to stop writing. Multiple people are suffering from this thing, and it sounds an awful lot like the portrait of Markov, don't you think? On the Libertina website there's a report from January 5th, 2004, And it talks about the experiments being performed on a girl that's 3 years old, named Libitina. The report references a now dead kid whose redacted name has the same amount of letters as Alyssa, and her problem is that she couldn't contain the effects of the experiment, leading to her termination. The scientist also has a very, very strong belief in God. This experiment seems to be all about opening the third eye, and how since Libitina is psychic and showing all of these symptoms, she can no longer contain any of these things. Eye twitching, frantic intense emotions, bloodlust. It all lines up similar to Yuri. Now let's go to the binary message from Monika's file. So here's some key things that she says. Everyone is dead, she has deja vu, and this is not her only story. She also tells you something is going to happen if the others remember the other worlds that they were in. She also mentions the third eye and says that it's time to be the hero. 2018. What we gather from this is that Monika, who has the hero's role, manages to gain sentience and takes the other characters away with her to another game as a way of taking refuge in another world for a more happier time. Even Libitina, who is most likely an antagonist, she gets to come along too because, I mean, it's not really her fault, is it? This again is my conspiracy, but think of it this way. Monika and friends are in this game, and the rest of them settle in and lose their sense of self-awareness, but Monika is still very self-aware. It haunts her, and the game begins to be corrupted. But when we talked about Yuri before, what if Yuri is the one who is corrupting the game? Maybe Yuri is the one who is making Monika go insane as well. Maybe it's just not her being purely self-aware, but being interfered with by someone else. And maybe we have to go back to the original game to prevent the events of DDLC from even happening. Now it says 2018, but there's some issues with this because the members of the team have health issues and this shit happens, so it's delayed. And I do hope they feel better. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe, Yuri was the big yikes all along. So I know this is kind of an awkward outro. I'm really bad at YouTube outros, but this is my last video for the year. I'm just doing some holiday stuff. I'll be back in January with some stuff, and it might be a bit spotty here and there while I'm trying to set up shit for the new year, but I hope you have a really good Christmas and a really good New Year's, and I hope you enjoyed this look back on this really fucking weird game.
We got bagels! Whoa!